going on, guys? On today's episode, we're going to be deep diving into a little bit of like funny gym stories that me and Christian shared throughout our years in the industry. We'll go on to talk about like the upcoming workforce and then deep dive more into like interview prep and how to interview whenever you are going into these environments. And also stick around for the 5-minute fitness tip at the end of the show, you know, that we always have. And then shout out to the 3 German people that are listening to our podcast. We appreciate y'all. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Huddle. You know what it is. You're here with myself, Sean Fredericks, and
Christian Roddy.
So, you know, let's kick it off. Tell me about your week, bro. How's it been?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's been a long week. So, working in the gym industry, sometimes the reason why we do this is the people, but also some of the worst parts about the job is the people.
100%.
And some weeks just get to you, and this week's been that week, my man. Literally walked in earlier in the week to a member telling me that there was literal human feces on the floor in the locker room.
No shot.
And like, initially I was like, oh, no way. And he's like, yeah, like it's in there. And I was like, okay, maybe somebody stepped through something. They came in, like it fell off their shoe in the locker room. I walk in there, perfect little like pyramid of Giza, bro. I promise you.
No
I promise.
shot.
I was so upset. Because now I know like someone wasn't rushing to the bathroom like they couldn't make it. Right.
Yeah.
Like somebody took the time to make this happen. And I was like, wait, like no one else was around and saw this? Like how, like what's going on? So I was upset and I was like, I don't know what we did to this person to make them do that, but
Where was it exactly?
so the locker room at the gym, it's kind of like a hallway, then it opens up to some mirrors, and then there's like the restroom.
Yeah.
So it's right between the sinks, hallway,
Yeah.
going into the locker, like the restroom area. So I kind of first thought like, again, like they would have tried to like maybe rush and get in there,
Yeah.
but no,
No
they had to
way.
stop for this process. But if we did something to hurt you bad enough where you got to do that in our locker room, like just cancel your membership, bro. It's not that serious.
I'm trying to figure out is like there was no one else in the locker room. Like, yo, this man is taking a shit in the middle of the locker room, and no one's going to just like come report that and try to like stop him.
Apparently not. And you know, working in gyms, it's like there's always that old naked man waiting around in the locker room. Like I'm surprised one of them didn't see it.
Facts, they're always in there. That's why I'm like, honestly, like you haven't worked in the gym unless you cleaned up another grown man shit off the ground.
That's facts.
That's literally breaking in like the shoes right there.
What's crazy is that's actually, it probably happens at least once every 6 months to a year where somebody tells me like there's shit in the shower.
Yeah.
And we've got to go clean it up. And I don't know where it comes from, how it gets there, but 100%, you haven't worked in a gym long enough if you ain't dealt with that.
One of the craziest like places I've heard of like shit being somewhere was in someone's cycle room. Yeah, it was over in like down the street from where you're at. And I forgot, it was one of the old people that worked there. He was like, yeah, I called him. I was like, yo, how's your day going, bro? And he's like, yeah, it's going all right other than me cleaning shit out of my cycle room. And I was like, no way.
God.
And he was like, yeah, there's literally a pile of it in a corner. I was like, I'm like, why do you like what was the reason for that? Like, why did you have to go into the corner in the cycle room and just take a shit there? Like, what did we do to like?
But it's also like you left it there, you know?
Yeah.
Like most people would probably just take it in the pants, but you pulled your pants down, you took a shit, and then you left.
That's why I'm like, these motherfuckers are ninjas when they do it. like no one is seeing this. No one caught you like mid pants down taking a shit. Like you just got away with that. You're legitimately
If you made eye contact with somebody who was doing that, what are you doing?
Facts, honestly,
like, oh.
I mean, like that man's a serial killer because he's legitimately looking me directly in my eyes, so he knows who I am. So if I go report him, he gonna kill me.
Honestly, maybe that's why like no one's ever reported it happening in action. It's always been like, oh, by the way, like I don't know if you guys noticed yet, but this is there. It's never been like, yo, you got to get that guy because maybe they're scared. Like I don't want to mess with him because he's got issues.
Looking at you shitting like, yeah, go tell somebody. I guarantee you won't make it out of here.
Yeah, and I know working in any job where you deal with the general population, it's probably pretty crazy. And every once in a while, you just really get in the swing of things, and you kind of forget that people can be that off the wall.
Bro.
After working in the gym industry for as many years as we have, like there's got to be crazy stories, and I know I've had a ton.
No, there's
what's some of the stuff you've come across, both just in the gym or dealing with people in general?
some of the craziest like things always happen in the gym, and it's ridiculous to the fact where I'm like, why do we even allow these type of people to come like roam around? Like I'm legitimately a like adult babysitter. That's literally what I am. I didn't think how many like actual grown men and women could actually be such adult children. No, but one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me, I was like a young salesman and I really wanted this sale. You feel me? Like, cause this month I was going in, I was pre-zoning him a bunch of training and it was like $5,000 worth of stuff. And then he's in a wheelchair and he's in a wheelchair, right? And his like caregiver is a female. And so I'm like showing him the facility and then I'm showing him the facility, right? And he's like, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, go handle it. And he's like, nah, I needed some assistance. And I'm like looking at his caregiver and I'm like, well, fuck, how's this gonna work? And then so I let him go in there, like I wheel him into like the handicap stall. And it's a good like 10, 15 minutes, and my boy is like still in there, and I just hear like tussling, like I'm like, fuck. Like I know I gotta go help him out, so I like go, and I'm like, I go into the stall, and I'm like, hey, you good? And then he's like, nah, I need your help. I need your help.
No shot.
I was like, fuck, I really want this sale, so I'm like, all right, cool. Like I go in there, help my man back onto his chair. Mind you, his pants ain't even up. I just got him onto the chair, and then we get him over like outside the stall, and he's like, "Yeah, I need you to help pull my pants up." And I was like, "What?" And then he's like, "I need you to help pull my pants up." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Hold on, I need somebody else to like come help me out." So I go grab my boy, and I'm like, "Yo, like, you got to help me pull this dude's pants up." He's like, "What do you mean?" Actually, I didn't even tell him until we got into the locker room, and I'm like, "Hey, bro, I need your help. Just come with me." And then he's like, what are we doing? I'm like, don't worry about it. Just come with me. And then so we get into the locker room, right? And then so we're like helping this man like pull his pants up. By the way, I don't think he's handicapped. I think he's just lazy because he's one of those handicapped people that can like walk around and you're just like, maybe you just can't stand on his legs for too long because I know he can pull his damn pants up. Anyways, so we get there and like this man is so ashy and like dry on his legs to the point where like I'm pulling his pants up and like my boy is like, I have him like from behind, like on like the paws, like I have him from like the backside, and my boy is on the front side, and obviously what's on the front side of the dude, so we're like pulling up his pants. I just remember just every like inch that I pulled this man's pants up, like just flakes of this dry skin just start flaking off, and like his whole chair smelled like piss and shit. And I was like, oh my god. And mind you, so like we get back to the front desk, and I'm like, and then his caregiver's like, yeah, you should buy the training and this and that. He's like, nah, I'm good. And just walks out. I was like, no shot. And then, bro, what's even crazier is like this motherfucker came back like 6 months or like a year later. I can't remember. It was like 6 months later. He came back, asked again for the tour. He's like, yeah, hey, I need you to show me around the facility again. And then I'm like, have you been here? He's like, yeah, been here once in a while. And then he was like, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. And I was like, nah, I'm not going. I can't help you out with that, my boy. Like, I was like, your caregiver going to have to help you out. He's like, all right. And then he like, again, I pre-zoned him training again, and the food just dipped. So, God. I was a little upset.
Maybe he's going in because he knows someone will help him. Bro, that's wild.
That was terrible. I literally, like, it ruined my whole day.
That's rough. Hey, 5-star service though, MVP.
Bro, you feel me? Like, I'm out here trying to win.
Oh my God. No, you're a better man than I am. I would have like closed the locker room down to let the caretaker in. So
now I would have. Me now, like, hey, I'm blocking this whole section off because the caregiver's coming in.
That's wild. Yeah, I had something a little bit more similar to like the serial poopers. Back when I used to work at one of my first locations I was ever at, I would work the night shifts. I started as graveyard, but then like half the week I would do like a 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. So usually there'd be like another front desk person, a couple salespeople, and then it'd start to die down throughout the night. And then there was this one week, every night, there was a regular, big buff black dude, and he'd shower before he'd leave. And then he ran out with a towel on one night, and he's like, "You gotta go in there and get this man." I was like, "What? What is happening?" And he's like, "Come on!" And I come in there, and he's like, "He's gone." I was like, "What you mean? Wait, what? Who's gone? What'd he do?"
I tell you, they ninjas.
What's happening? He's like there's somebody masturbating in the showers. I was like, "What?"
And that's the worst.
And he was like, he was watching me, and I was like,
that's the worst.
And I was like, "Wait, all right, so you saw him?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, where'd he go?" And he's like, "I had to come get you." I was like, "Well, what'd he look like? You said you saw him." He's like, "White dude, he's kind of tall." I was like, "All right, that's like half the people in the gym right now. Like, you gotta give me more than that." And I'm trying to like make eye contact with everybody in the locker room now. It's just like, were you the one?
Were you the one that was mad?
So I was like, all right, I don't know who it is. Like, that's fine. So go back to the front. Dude finishes his shower, comes out, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, man, but that's like the second time that guy's done it. He always comes in around this time." And I was like, "You just now telling me that, and this has happened before?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay." So next night, literally the next night, same big black dude comes, gets me. He's like,
He's at it
again. I was like, "No way." And so I go back there and just
gone
again.
Ninja.
I was like, I can't.
My boy, he's a ghost.
Yo, but this time I'm like, I stand by the front door of the gym watching everybody go out, and I'm just waiting.
Looking for people that fit the persona of a fucking ninja masturbator.
So the third night, right? The guy showers, same member comes out. He's like,
In a row? Third night in a row?
Yeah, the regular,
It's chronic masturbator.
No, he comes out after he showers, and he's like, "I didn't see him tonight." I was like, "Well, that's good progress."
Yeah.
But then about 30 minutes goes by, and I get a call to the front desk, and they're like, "Hey, like, I'm looking for my brother." And I was like, "Okay, like, what's going on?" "Yeah, he usually comes in, he showers, and, he's got a lot of stuff going on in his life. And, he recently came out and was like, to our family, and it's just been a really stressful time for him. And I think he goes in there and masturbates in your guys' showers." And I was like, "No way." I was like, "I know exactly who your brother is.
I've been looking for this motherfucker for days.
Yeah, and he's like, "He should be there right now." And so
You can catch him in the act.
So I searched his info, and there was too many members with the same name and everything. And I was like,
that's the worst.
I never found him.
My boy's still on the loose.
but so I've worked in about 9 gyms. I'd say half of them I've had a serial masturbator in the men's showers.
Bro, I had that at one of my gyms, and like one of my members came up to me just like so distraught, and I was like to the point where like I didn't want to laugh, but like I couldn't like hold back, and he comes up and he's like, "Hey, listen, like I just feel so uncomfortable," and I'm like, "Damn, like what happened?" And he's like, "I'm in the shower, right?" And like the glass between the shower is like just like a frosted glass. It's like nothing crazy, like, and he's like, "I'm in the shower, right? And I hear some stuff going on in the stall right next to me." And I'm like, "Okay." And then he's like, the dude peeks his head around the shower, and he's like, "Hey." I'm like, "Okay, where's this going?" And then he's like, he proceeds to put his whole like dick and balls like on the frosted glass, and he's like, "Do you wanna?" And then
No
he's like,
way.
"No." He's like, "I don't want to."
In what world does this work? The confidence.
Bro, and then he comes to the front. He's like, I'm like, "Well, what does he look like?" He's like, I'm just so distraught. Like I didn't even look at his face. Like all I saw was just meat. And then he's like, "Yeah, I just feel." And it was like, it was to the point where he came back for like 1 or 2 days after it, and he's like, "Have you caught the guy?" And I'm like, "Bro, you didn't give me any description. You just said he was a white man. Like, I can't give you that, bro. Like, I don't know who it was."
Yeah, that's tough. And that's exactly one of the reasons why I don't shower in the gyms. Like, I go home and I'll shower after my workout.
100%.
I don't trust none of y'all.
Some of the stuff that you see in there, and I'm like, why are you doing this here? Like, why are you shaving your balls here? One time, bro. So I went back into the showers, right? And some member comes and gets me, and he's like, "Hey, there's a dude like fully clothed in the shower." And I'm like, "What?" And I go back there, and then I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm almost done. He's over there heating his like cup of noodles up in the shower, fully clothed, and then got like a little bag of like water. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, hey, I'm just getting my cup of noodles ready, and then I'm gonna wash my blanket, and I'm out. And I'm like, what you mean wash your blanket? And he's like, I'm gonna just wash my blanket real quick. I was like, bro, I can't have you wash your blanket in here. And he's like, I can't wash my blanket. I'm like, no, nigga, like you can't wash your blanket. Get your blanket and get out. Yep. And then he proceeds to like grab his ramen noodles and his blanket and just walked out soaking wet. And I was like, bro, what was up?
Just built different.
Why would you think that was okay?
God. Yeah, I mean, they don't. And obviously, I think I remember what club that was at that you're talking about. And that one was in a little, that club's in a different area. Yeah. it's got some problems.
It's got some crackheads over there.
Jeez. I guess what's some crazy stuff that hasn't happened in the locker room at a gym that you've worked at?
Outside of the locker room, usually the locker room is just notorious for crazy shit happening. Like if you want like some crazy shit to happen, it's in the locker room. I think outside, I was very surprised, but go ahead.
I was gonna say it's not always the members sometimes that cause problems as well. Sometimes it's the team members themselves. So during the COVID pandemic, we were the gyms that I worked at, they closed, and they weren't used to closing, so they'd be open all hours throughout the day. And I guess the member base, thought they could be there later than they could. But one of my employees, she was, she's off at 11. Like, all right, it's 11, I'm out. Like, didn't do a club walk, didn't check, like, all the locker rooms, make sure everybody was out, locked the door. We had a member in there just banging on the window. Luckily, like, my cleaning lady came over overnight and had to let her out.
Bro,
but this poor member was traumatized. It was like 3 weeks. He'd come in every night around like 7, 8 o'clock. He'd be like, what time y'all close again? Like just to make sure. He's like, I didn't think anyone's going to come get me.
Bro, the sad part is that member, because I remember this guy. The sad part is
that's the same.
That's the same
you gotta let him know.
That's the same dude that was the participant in like the shower of like the dude like asking him about putting his meat up against the window. Like, so like he just has the worst luck.
Talk about being at the wrong time, wrong place, wrong time.
Literally just always is in the wrong place at the wrong time and just has the worst luck. And I'm like, damn, like he's just so traumatized at that gym. And I'm so happy that he's just a loyal like gym member because he keeps coming back. And I'm like, he's gonna run into some stuff. And I'm like, I'm just waiting for the day where he's like fed up. He's like, I'm done with this. Like I gotta go.
Just builds his own gym in his garage. He's like, I can't do it.
Like his fitness goals are just not worth it. But yeah, no, it's not always just the members. Like I've had like team members do some stuff where I'm like, I shouldn't have to tell you that. Like I didn't believe that when I'm like onboarding you and like bring you onto the team and like I'm telling you like, oh, like this is like how much you're getting paid and this is how you'll clock in, clock out. I didn't think I would have to tell you this. One time I had a member getting his haircut in the lobby. Like getting chopped up right there. Like motherfuckers checking in and then my boy getting chopped up right there. And I'm like, and what's funny is like someone else comes and grabs me. They're like, hey, he's getting a haircut. And I'm like, what you mean he's getting a haircut? And they're like, yeah, he's getting a haircut like right in the lobby. I'm like an actual legitimate haircut? Like I'm thinking like maybe like a little like snip, like cutting a couple pieces. No, like my boy got the cape on him and everything.
Oh
like getting chopped up. And I go out there's a pile of hair on the floor, like right next to everything. And I'm like, bro, why? Like I'm looking at him like, why would you think that's okay?
Mm-hmm.
In what world?
That's insane.
So yeah, sometimes it's not just the members.
No, and shame on the barber also, like who thought that they could just set up there. Like, hey, way to hustle. Well, props to you being a mobile person, but
it makes me upset because the barber was a member. So I guess it is the members too. The member was just like, yeah, that's cool. I guess I'll chop you up right here. So yeah,
oh my goodness.
It's a little upsetting.
Just hey, let me get my protein. Oh, actually, there's a little bit of hair in it. Never mind. I'm good.
Like they're bro, like a pile. Like when I say like a pile of hair, it was like legitimately like a full pile of hair, like a actual haircut. I mean, yeah, I guess like when you're hiring people, go for the right hires.
Try as much as you can.
Try.
It's definitely been a unique time frame coming out of COVID, having to rebuild some of the staffs that we had. So you have these clubs that have 30, 50 employees, and you're operating at full capacity, and you open back up with maybe like 5 to 8, and now we're trying to like slowly get back up to 20, 25, whatever it might be. And so you don't always have the time based on the demand that we're seeing in the fitness industry right now to kind of find the best candidate.
Yeah.
Right now it's kind of, we've ramped up, but initially like you just needed somebody who was there. And
hey, can you speak? can you just stand there? Then all right, you get hired, my boy.
It's definitely been tough to try to like work with this generation that's coming up anyways. There's definitely a little bit of social cues that are different. The way that they, work is different. The way they communicate is different. Now you could blame that on, COVID, because if somebody graduated like high school, say 2019, and those, typically if you're working at a gym front desk, that's probably a minimum wage job. You're going to get some younger people. But like say you graduate high school, you're 18, and then the pandemic hit like in 2020, and you didn't work for 2 years, and now we're hiring that workforce. And it's like those people are isolated. It's
lazy motherfuckers.
What is their work ethic going to be like?
Lazy.
But even before that, I guess identifying and interviewing talent is so crucial, because I've never thought I've had to explain things the way that I would have to.
Bro.
The way you said it is sometimes I feel like I'm running a daycare.
I legit run a daycare, and I'm like, I got to make sure, literally, like, sometimes I'm like, why do you think, like, you can do that? Like, you're at a place of business. If this was, like, low-key, like, back in the day, like, you'd be fired already on the spot.
Yeah.
So it's, like, a little insane.
I know you're familiar with Kevin Hart. Jesse, you've seen Kevin Hart?
Yeah.
All right. I'm sure most of our listeners probably know who Kevin Hart is. He has a skit where he's talking about being a dad. And he's like, man, I just get so upset sometimes because I tell my kids what to do and they don't do it the way that I see it in my head. He's got his like rowdy little kid running around the house. He's like, all right, that's it. Y'all being too crazy. Shut it down. Go to bed. And, in his head, he sees his son like, oh, all right, dad, whatever. I goes up the stairs, lays down, goes to sleep. His son, like the way he explains it, no shit. Mid-sprint, just, what? Ah. And like falls asleep standing up. Kevin Hart's like, get your ass up. And he's like, he's so mad because like, you did exactly what I said, but you did it all wrong. And that is my goddamn life.
Just constantly just doing it wrong. That's terrible. Yeah, I mean, when you're looking for talent, like you definitely got to figure out like who you want on your team and like what their purpose they're gonna serve on your team is, and like because like during COVID, you're getting all these like weird, lazy people or just people that have no social skills, or I don't know. Yeah. Not everyone is like that, but you get a decent amount where you're just like, okay, y'all are just so lazy. You're just not ready to work.
And don't get me wrong, there's some amazing fitness professionals out there who are doing amazing work and connecting with the community and truly changing lives through fitness. Or like salespeople or customer service people are just going above and beyond. But there's also, an interesting generation that's finding their place in the workforce right now. And we talked about it a couple episodes back, like what's the solve for that? Some of these people who don't have a great work ethic, or maybe they don't understand what the expectation is from an employer. Yeah. But as far as the people who are looking to get into the gym industry and be those true fitness professionals that we've worked around for the years that we have, I guess, what can they do to prepare? Like, what do you look for in the candidates? And that's going to be a little different, right? That's a loaded question, whether it's front desk sales or personal training. But I guess someone who just wants to get their foot in the door in the fitness industry.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely look for a lot of things. One of the most like important things that I think I look for is people that have like self-awareness in themselves. Because I definitely don't like someone that I can bring on and they're like a know-it-all or like are uncoachable just because they think that they know it all, or just like don't have like emotional integrity. Like I think that's the biggest key is like people that have really good emotional integrity and like have self-awareness. And it's like, okay, like I know where like my areas of opportunity are and I know like what I need help with. So yeah, let's like sit down and try to like go move forward and like help out with that. Again, like I feel like people that have emotional integrity and like an actual understanding of like some sort of self-awareness are kind of like easier people to coach just because they're more open-minded to like what you're saying. So that's one of the key things I look for though.
Okay. How I guess, how would you see that out in an interview? So on the other side of that, if you're a leader and you're looking for people who have like a high level of self-awareness, like how do you kind of sift that out from people who don't?
Like one of the easiest questions I ask is like, what are your strengths? Like I always like, yeah, like what's your strengths? And then I'm like, okay, cool. Like what are your areas of opportunity? And not like what are your weaknesses, but what are your like some stuff that you could work on in yourself? And then if you get those people where they hit you with I think one of my areas of opportunity is I just work so damn hard. You're just like,
It's
shut
like,
the fuck
you
up.
don't know what your opportunity
you
is.
clearly don't have self-awareness. Or it's like, yeah, you know what? I actually don't have any. And you're just like, okay, well, everyone has something. And you clearly don't know what the fuck you're talking
Appreciate
about.
the confidence.
Yeah, good confidence, but that's not the answer I was looking for. So those are like the people I kind of like just curve off to the side where I'm like, all right, get up out of here. So like if they honestly hit me with like, some people hit me with like good ones where it's like some are red flags where I'm like, ooh, like they're like, yeah, time management is like one of the things that I'm like working on. And I'm like, that could go both ways where I'm like, fuck, like,
because I love the honesty and the transparency, and if they can identify their own opportunity, sometimes it can be a red flag, but it's super powerful if you can identify it, even if it's something that potentially could be off-putting. If you can talk about the steps you've taken to overcome that opportunity, then I'm like, yo, that might be an amazing candidate because they're self-aware enough to realize it, but then also put together some action plans to improve on it.
Yeah.
And if they could show actually the progression of that, which again, that'd be probably a next level candidate who could, but
yeah, I mean, honestly, when they're telling me like stuff like that, I take it with a grain of salt. Like obviously, if they're saying time management, like everyone can work on their time management skills. Like no one's perfect. Trust me. But nah, yeah. I mean, time management. Like when it breaks down to it, then at the end of the day, like is it really something that you're actually working on, or is that you're just saying like, yeah, it's an area of opportunity that you have, and you're honestly not trying to work on it. So like that's kind of like where you got to figure it out. Like, oh, are they actually like trying to work on that, or is that really just something that they know that they suck at, and they're just like, all right, that's kind of like my life. Like I suck at time management. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right.
Yeah, and reflecting back on some stuff you said in past episodes is you want a candidate, or you're looking for people who come in and it's their why. What is their why? Is this job fulfilling? Is it aligned to them? And things of that nature. And then work ethic and wanting to help other people are pretty powerful stuff that I look for. Because self-awareness, that's great. But if you don't have the drive and respect to also do the best that you can while you're here, that's kind of what you were saying before, is like, if this is a stepping stone, like still be the best damn person you can be while you're here. So I guess if it doesn't align with your why, at least tell me how getting better here will in the future. Like that's something I love to hear, because that also, I guess, is a reflection of self-awareness also.
Yeah, to an extent, yeah, I guess. What do you ask them?
What do I ask
Well,
them?
like when you're in the interview, what kind of like outliers do you look for, and like red flags do you look for when you're like, you know what, this person's probably not the best fit?
I'm going to be 100% honest. So I asked some pretty simple questions, and you could break down a couple different acronyms. I think it's like STAR and SAR. So like specific task, actions you took, and then the result. That's STAR for me. And I base a couple of those. And then usually I have to just find like what is like the skit here almost, or like what is the role play? It's like, if there was a time blank, what was the specific task? What was the action you took, and what was the result? So like if it's, have you ever had a disagreement with a manager? Have you ever had to multitask? Have you ever had to de-escalate a situation? Escalation resolution, stuff like that. 70% of the people almost get disqualified immediately is because they don't understand the question that I ask, the true question. Like, and sometimes it's my fault because I'll give them like a smoke screen question with the actual question.
Code.
Yeah, a little bit. And it's like sometimes it's my fault, so then I try to simplify it for them. But a lot of the times their answer isn't to my question. So if I'm like, can you tell me about a time where you've had to multitask? And, give me the specific task, the action you took, and then the result. And the answer has nothing to do with multitasking. I was like, Red flag.
That's not the question.
Yeah, because if it was something simple like that, and I understand people are nervous, so I always open up interviews with like a lot of ice breaking and trying to just get to know one another. One of the first things I do is let them know my why and why I'm doing it. But to break that down, that's one of my biggest things is, I guess, understanding what I'm saying so we don't have problems like I was talking about earlier. They do what I tell them to do, but not the way that I thought about it. So are we on the same page?
Yeah. I think when you're going into the interview, like setting out clear expectations is like super important. Later, just because like once you have those expectations like set in stone and it's like first off, like once you go into that coaching conversation later down the road, it's like super easy to talk about to the point where it's like, yeah, you know what, like I told you this already in an interview, like this is something that you should have expected. So if you're not delivering to like meet these expectations, and this is kind of like where we have to coach and develop you to actually meet those expectations. So
Yeah. I guess as far as like not maybe specific to interview questions, but in just candidates in general, what are you kind of looking for? So if somebody was like, you know, would I be good fit at this gym, or I want to get in the gym industry? Like what are maybe some like
I think
maybe intangibles or stuff we can't like maybe put on paper or asking a question?
no, I mean, I always go with like my first, like I always go off with like my member base, like a great like recruitment and like talent pool to go off of is just like people that are already in the gym because they already have like that like-minded, like they're already there, like trying to get fitness, like fitness is already their lifestyle. So, obviously like I go with them, and then people that are just like super energetic and like because the fitness industry you have to like motivate a lot of people and like you have to be the best part of someone's day every day, so it's like you got to have like that big I don't know personality and like that bubbly personality for like especially if like you're coming in at like 5 a.m. like someone doesn't want someone like dry. They want that bubbly person to kind of like wake them up. So I kind of like look for people like that just are like over enthusiastic and stuff like that.
Yeah, the way somebody put it to me one time before is like, when you walk in the room, are you like a driver or are you a drainer?
Yeah.
Like, do you increase the energy of the room or do you pull from it?
Yeah.
And, you know, that sometimes can be portrayed even if somebody doesn't have that ability. But once you get around enough people, you kind of understand who's really doing it and who's putting on a show.
Yeah.
But I love what you're saying there, that energy. Like, do you brighten people's day when you come in? And like, that's hard to like quantify, but you could feel it from people.
Oh no, yeah, you can for sure. And then it's like you could also feel the drainers too, where you walk in and you're like, this person vibe is just all off, and I don't want to be around you. And it was crazy is because like the rotten apple like affects a bunch is like the rotten apple that ruins a bunch is like a legitimate like thing. Like if you have one person that is a drainer and like has that draining energy, like it could potentially like get everyone drained and like ruin everyone else's day. So it's like now it's affecting the whole team, or vice versa. Like if you have that one person that's super energetic, that could like boost up the whole team. So, and it's like, why would I not just look for energetic people to boost up the energy? But there's sometimes where like I've hired some people and I'm like, dang, like you definitely didn't come with the same energy you had in the interview, my boy. So like, it's like, all right, now we have to go and kind of like think of if is this the right place for you? So it's like, yeah.
And as long as they try and like they usually match our energy, they match our effort, because it's like, I should never want this more than you want this.
Yeah.
Because those people we could at least train and develop, right? But if they don't have the want, they don't have the will, they don't meet us halfway, even if they do, you know, somewhat become a drainer, but like they can execute, or they could turn it on for one person.
Yeah.
Like when they're like one-on-one with people. Because I've worked with some introverts that it's super painful for them to be like extroverted, but those were some of the most effective fitness professionals that I've worked with once they got one-on-one with somebody.
Yeah.
Because they were able to channel it all into them, but they worked on that. If they had stayed who they were on their first day they had got there, they would have never been who they were and changed the lives they did. So that's another thing is when it comes back to coachability.
I guess that's something I just got to clear up then. Yeah. Obviously, like introverts aren't like bad people to hire. I was thinking more of like the introvert that's introverted, but also doesn't want to put any effort into like being like doing a good job. Because I've hired some people where I'm like, you're an introvert and you don't want to even work here and you don't want to do your job. And I'm like, what do you think I'm paying you for?
Yeah. Or it
like,
feels
why
like,
do you think I'm like, I feel like I'm like a burden when I ask you to go do something. Like, my bad. Like, I asked you to go do your job. Like, oh shit, my fault.
That's the worst. And it's like, I'll ask you to do something, I'll tell you to do something, and then like I'll try to make you do it. But once it gets that, like, we had an agreement. There was a preset expectation. That's why I like to use also like SMART goals, because that's like specific, it's measurable. My two favorite are agreed upon and realistic.
Thanks.
And then the last one, time bound. But it's like, we agreed on this.
Yeah.
You said you could do it. You wanted to do it. And now we not there.
It reminds me of, I don't know if you ever seen that SpongeBob episode, but when like Plankton makes like the robot SpongeBob, or no, he gets SpongeBob onto his team and he's like, I'll do it later. He's like, well, I got you on the team to like make some Krabby Patties, and he's like, I'm just not feeling it right now. And he's like, what? He's like, I literally hired you to do your job. And he's like, maybe in a little bit. He's like, I might need like a drink, and then he gets him a drink, and then he's like, yeah, I'm not. I'm like, that's literally how I feel sometimes, and I'm like,
don't be that guy.
Yeah, don't be SpongeBob, right? Like, get up and do your damn job.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, don't be that guy.
So yeah, I mean, again, it's like there's a lot to look for too, and you can't judge a book by its cover too. Like, you never know what's going on in people's situations and kind of like where they are at life. So you never want to judge any books by their covers. Like, there's a lot of people that I know that do that, and I'm like, you got like, this person could be a great employee, and you're kind of just judging them off of like. I know first impression, it means a lot, and sometimes first impressions like kind of get like a bad rep just because like they could be super nervous, and like that first impression could literally just be a shitty first impression just because they were super nervous, or like something's going on in that time, in that period, where they're just like, hey, like I really wasn't having the best day. So it's like, don't judge off of like a book by its cover, I guess.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, since we kind of know what we're looking for a little bit, maybe a little bit of insight. You recently got promoted. We talked about that earlier, to a bigger facility. Since you've been interviewing interviewing for positions recently, what do you do to prepare to, one, set clear expectations for yourself, but also two, like set yourself up for success in those interviews?
There's a lot that goes into that. It's a lot. There was a lot of prepping. Thankfully, obviously, you helped me out with my prep. Just a little bit of it. It wasn't a lot,
just
but
a little.
But yeah, a lot of it is like I like to like over deliver in those interview processes. So like go over prepared, I guess. And like if those questions don't get asked, then at least I prepared for it. Yeah. And then a lot of them are like just situational based questions. So like just role playing with like your homie, or like, I don't know, just role playing at work, or doing like being in that like environment so like when you go into an interview, it's not like the first like conversation you're having. It's like you've already predetermined these conversations, and you already had this like role play based out in your mind. So it's like you already have like boom, 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 like the answer's ready to go. But yeah, and then really like knowing the job and understanding like what you're like applying for, because like there's some people where like I interview them and they don't even know what they applied for, and I'm like, bro, you could come in here and be the janitor, and you're gonna hate your job because you don't know what you just applied for. Yep. So it's like really understanding the job and knowing what you're gonna apply for is like kind of like what helped me to success. Like I really knew exactly what I should be doing in that role and like what I was gonna be doing moving forward. So like I planned and prepared for that. So yeah. That
what you said is also some key that I did on the other side when I'm the interviewer, is you got to ask like, hey, what's the day in the life of this role? Or like, do you understand the expectations of this? Like, because you can't move forward. But if they don't know that, they could be answering questions wrong because they had a construed conception of like what the job actually was. So that's a great point. I love what you said. I even tell my current employees this: when you have such an important job as being in the fitness industry, it's not easy for everybody. So you get them sometimes in these emotional situations where they're trying to make that change, but they're not really ready yet to do it themselves. So for that, and then like for an interview process as well, is like you get one opportunity, one chance, not to quote Eminem, you know what I'm saying, but for my athletes out there, you don't go out in a big game and like the first throw you do all day for like a pitcher or a quarterback is like in the game. Like you had an hour or two of warm-ups. Just even that day, much less the years or weeks of practice you've had leading up to that moment.
Yeah.
So for you to say, like, getting warmed up, like, have a conversation with a friend. Like, for my employees, like, before they talk about training with a possible some interested client, is like, you need to go talk to your fitness manager. You need to come talk to me. Like, we need to have just conversations to, like, keep you warm, get you warmed up before you go try to change somebody's life. And same with an interview process. Like, if the first time you're talking about whatever that potential job is that you're going to do that day is to the person who's potentially going to hire you and offer you a job, like that, you're going to be like a little rusty.
Yeah, you definitely want to get those reps in, because the reps are what's going to make you more fluent in that conversation and make you feel a little bit like more confident. And
Yeah.
having confidence in the interview is like key. You want to go in there, obviously not being like overconfident and like being cocky, like, because that just comes off like terrible.
Yeah. And interviewing in itself is a skill set
Yeah.
that you need to practice for. I guess a lot of the times people have a misconstrued view on what sales is. I consider sales the ability of having clear and concise communication, having the talent of communicating with people to understand you. And it's like an interview is kind of like that. So you need to have the ability to understand who your audience is, how to maybe mirror them or what they're looking for, because you want to come in and it's a lot of like sales. And then the reason I say that is because in sales, people usually buy you. So it's like the interview isn't buying your ability to ring people up if you're like being a front desk person. They're not hiring you necessarily because you can tell somebody to do reps and sets. Like they're hiring you because they believe in you. Like you're kind of your product and you need to present that in a way and just show up confident.
Not in a cocky way though.
Not in a cocky way.
Yeah.
And also like mirroring your audience. So, maybe sometimes some people also try to find and hire people who fix their opportunities. Usually good teams do, but they also still have an unconscious bias to hire a little bit like them. Even the greatest people, like when I was initially becoming a manager and like the people I hired, and I looked around me, I'm like, these people are all like me. And so my team had a lot of pitfalls because we all had the same opportunities. And now I look at it.
Bad motherfuckers.
Yeah. Just, as long as I got work ethic, we're good. We don't need organization. I'm like, oh my God.
A bunch of rowdy, chaotic motherfuckers.
Yeah. And it's like, there's been points in my careers where I've overextended the other way. And I had people who were just super clear cut, operational people, didn't have these big outgoing personalities. Like, oh, that was the wrong way to go. So it needs to be a little bit in the middle. Went down a whole rabbit hole there. Be warmed up for your interviews. Have some questions asked by a friend or family member that's maybe somewhat of in that field, and have clear expectations of what it is you're going after.
Yeah, I mean, that basically sums it up.
So after that, I would say, you know what time it is.
5-minute fitness tip.
Let's go.
Sheesh. We always got a good one for y'all, So this 5-minute fitness tip today is on supplements.
Sheesh.
So, and not to get it confused with nutrition.
I hate him. So we had a little debate,
You can answer it in the comments or if you guys think, but yeah, supplements and nutrition should be its own separate category.
Yeah, so we'll break it up. We'll break it up for today because we were saying, all rectangles can be a square, but not all squares can be a rectangle. However that goes. I don't know. Geometry was rough. But
just know that supplements and nutrition.
We'll break it up because some supplements are, provide a lot of nutritional value, and then some supplements are, they provide other needs and solutions for you.
I was saying that earlier. That's
crazy. No, but today breaking it down, just kind of for the new gym goer, one of the first things they always say when we get them started is like, okay, what protein do I need
on that protein?
Yeah, what's gonna make me big, or what weight loss thing is gonna help me lose weight? And agree. I don't know if you'll agree or disagree with me, Sean, but I think the number one thing before we break this down is supplements are exactly what the name says. Like they are meant to supplement and complement an already great nutrition program, and to find like the deficiencies or the pitfalls in your nutrition program, and then you would then add it with this.
Yeah.
So it's not the end all be all. I promise you, I don't care what they say at GNC, nutrition shop, whatever, even at your local gym. If they telling you that you need this protein to get to your goal, like this supplement to get to your goal, you need to reevaluate that.
Yeah. I mean, again, like proteins and supplements, just supplements in general, I guess we're going to just talk about proteins because those actually deliver like nutritional value to your actual diet. So when like picking out proteins, one, you got to figure out like what your diet plan is and like kind of like how you're going to influence that protein into your diet. Because I know like when I first started out, like I wanted just as much mass as possible, and like I wanted to gain as much like body mass. So I went with such a like high calorie count protein and such a, like a high like dense protein where it was to the point where it was like almost like a meal replacement.
Okay.
But it was just definitely like a third meal where I couldn't like always continuously eat, where it was just like, this is quick and easy. So it was like 3,000 calories or like 2,000 calories in one shake. And I was like drinking those like every day. So it's like, that blew me up from like, and one, I was super bloated because you got to think all that sodium in there and all that like other stuff that's in the protein powder that just bloated me. But hey, I put on a lot of great mass on that time. So you got to think. And then there's also like whey protein. There's like just regular like casein protein. Like, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can take. And it's like, you realistically, one, do your research first. Like, understand like what you're putting in your body and understand like if that's going to fit your like your actual diet and if that's going to help you with whatever your goal is. So, but a lot of people take like protein for like one, like regeneration and like kind of like helping out with protein synthesis and like feeding like fat, like speeding up recovery, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And first off, I ain't a dietitian. I do not have a PhD in protein synthesis. All right. That's not me. So in anything. Yeah.
But you don't got a PhD in anything.
Yeah. Do you need protein to get to your goal?
No.
The short answer is no. In a supplement form. Do you need it?
Yes.
To get to your fitness goals? Protein as like what protein is? Yes. Absolutely. I would say to Sean's point, like that's one of the biggest pieces when it comes to recovery. So whether your goal is to lose weight or gain weight, you got to recover and you stimulate stress and growth in the gym. But where that truly happens is going to come in the regeneration portion or in your nutrition portion. But if you're not getting enough protein in, you're not doing all that you can to help you build that lean muscle mass back. And you got to get that in. You know, some people say you need a certain range. That could be anywhere from like 0.5 all the way to 1 gram per pound you weigh. And you got to look at it. Are you getting enough of that? So like Sean blowing up, like he probably wasn't. And then he added that in, probably especially with those meal replacement ones. I mean, do I think you need 2,000 calories to a shake? Not always, but you're never going to get bigger if you're not in a calorie surplus. So you 100%. Need to get it somehow. If you can't get in that meal and you're like, he was in the military. Like there's certain times he probably couldn't sit down on duty and eat. And so he took that shake and he's like, I could sip a shake.
2,000 calories in a shake, boy. That was a hefty shake. I swear to God. And it was called Serious Mass. I think that's what I was taking.
Low key, think I used to take that too.
I think that's what I was taking, and it was literally like 2,000 calories and like 65 grams protein.
What color was the container?
I think it was blue.
Bro, I used to with yellow letters.
Yeah.
I used to take that like when I got really lean out of high school. I was like, man, I'm too lean, and I wanted to pack on some muscle mass. That's literally what I took.
It was that one, and boy, I put on some muscle mass for sure. Like, I think I put like 15 pounds of like muscle on, or like I don't think it was actually all muscle.
And again, not due to the shake, due to the work he was putting in on top of getting the protein required.
Because if you just take the shake alone, bro, there's people that like get it confused where they're like, oh yeah, I'll take the protein shake, and then like they continuously take the protein shake and don't work out. And they're like, oh, like it's not helping me out, I'm getting fatter. Like that's because you're like just putting extra calories in your body and you're not burning those extra calories. So it's like you're literally like just adding more food and more like nutrition into your diet. So it's like it's doing the opposite of like what you want it to do. Yeah,
protein's not magic, but it can be calorie dense. So you got to think about it. Even from the leanest versions, which is like you can look at it either hydrolyzed or like a whey isolate. Usually if you get, a protein supplement, it'll probably come out to like 120 calories. If it's a pretty lean one like that, a couple carbs just to help out with the sweetening of it. But I guess what are the differences? Because that's one big thing. They're like when they look at a wall of supplements and they all say protein, or some of them say serious mass, some of them say like recovery, blah, blah, blah. The big three are whey isolate, whey concentrate, and then whey casein. And these are all dairy, right? Some of them can be lactose free because it's so synthesized and broken down, but this is a dairy protein.
And then you have plant-based.
And then you have these different types of plant-based, pea pea protein, soy protein, stuff like that. So, but of the big 3 that are on the market right now, in the dairy form, like what are the difference between those ones?
So casein protein is like a slow digestive protein.
Okay.
I know. I think I used to take casein like at night during like your body goes through that like fasting stage at night, where it's not getting any like consumption and stuff like that. So. I used to take like casein at night just because it was like a slow digestive, so it kind of like helped throughout like my whole like while I sleep essentially. And then there's like the whey isolate, where it's just like a finer form of like protein. I think it comes from they come from like soy and stuff like that. I don't know exactly where the whey isolate comes into. I'm not really a big protein person, so I don't really know the difference. So maybe you do.
I was like, I just told you it was dairy. No, saying this way. So no, whey isolate it's just like synthesized the correct term I think they use is hydrolyzed. So they're just like breaking it down. It's finer. It has a quicker absorption rate. So that's like whey isolate. It's the fastest absorbing, and it's just like it's isolated to that molecule.
Yeah.
Whey concentrate is not quite as synthesized from my understanding, but it's quicker than casein.
Yeah.
And with that, you'll see, because of how broken down they are, isolate is the smallest caloric like density.
Yeah.
And then concentrate and then casein in that form. And you were spot on with casein. It's like a little bit slower absorbing. So usually you'll see the brands selling for like weight loss / lean muscle are going to be isolates. The gainers you're going to see, they call them like multi-time release, and they'll have like a combination of all 3.
Got it.
Is typically, from my understanding, again, not a PhD.
Yeah. No PhD over there.
Check your facts, because who knows? People, we don't know.
I could just be telling you ruckus on there.
But this is years of experience, couple certifications, and you could look most of that up. Is that what I said? What did I say?
Certifications.
I broke it up.
So definitely do your research before you get into any like type of supplements, whether that be proteins or pre-workouts or creatine, stuff like that. Like you want to make sure you're doing your research to see if it's like your actual goals and like what you want to achieve in the gym, and 2, if it's like something you actually need in your body. Because like some of these supplements are just like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like they're bullshit. And it's like you get all this like nutrition and like nutritional value in food throughout the day, and it's like you're just putting like some extra stuff in your body to the point where like you don't even need it, and it just gets broken down into like sugars and fats.
Yeah. Again, always start with whole foods. That's the best way to do it. If you need an extra couple grams of a specific thing, that's where you can look at supplementation. And again, do your research on the brand and also that specific like macronutrient that you're trying to get from that supplement. Because a lot of these maybe or maybe aren't FDA approved. A lot of them don't have to be, I think, in the state of California, because they're technically not a food. I forget what they call it, but it's technically not a food. It's like kind of like, it's not even, some of them are considered dietary supplements. Some of them aren't even considered that. So a lot of them can be fooled with a bunch of junk. So also check the ingredients. Typically, when they break down the ingredients label, that's everything that's in it, and it's in order of how much of it is in it. So they could say, there's this magical thing in it that's like a hot topic. So you'll see like a lot of pre-workouts say there's creatine in their pre-workout, and it's like the 20th ingredient because they have less than a gram in there. But they throw it on the label now because they have creatine in there. So
and now you over there hype about it.
Yeah,
like,
so
she got creatine in it too.
So we'll break maybe all those down. But to simplify on supplementation, it's not necessary to buy all these protein pre-workouts at your local nutrition shop or at your gym. Understand your nutrition and where your deficiencies are, and then go from there.
And do your research.
Do your motherfucking research.
So, yeah.
Other than that,
you heard it first from here at the Hustle Huddle, where, the only controllable pillar of success is hustling. God damn it. And follow us and like and subscribe.